for our program tonight. It's going to be very exciting. So Delia will be introduced later as our speaker, so I won't introduce her right now. And I don't believe we have any other guests or elected officials with us. Do we, Amy? No. Okay.
Just Jude, but you'll introduce him later.
Yes, we will get to Jude later too. Okay. Yep. And so, Helen, where's Helen? Oh, there she is. If you'll come up and give our opening prayer, please.
Oh God, our Heavenly Father, we just invite your presence with us here tonight. Thank you for bringing these people, and Lord, help us to make a difference in our country through our prayers, through our action, and through reporting like this tonight. Thank you for the great young people that we have that have participated in the essays. I pray you'll bless them. Thank you for this time, I pray in Jesus' name.
Okay, attention, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Margaret is our patriot lady. So, we live in a time when there's not a lot of hope. And so I like our group and the Republican Party because it is based on hope and trust, individual responsibility, and reliance, and small government. But we are a joyful people. So I don't know if you've noticed that there are a lot of people with sour faces going on around here. But not here, not in this place. We are a happy people because we know our God and we know what we stand for, and we relax in that and we trust in it. So, all right, that's all I'm going to say for tonight, except for the encouraging words on your agenda. I'm always going to try to give you some encouraging words. I have learned that you can build a life upon hope, and if that principle is your anchor, plenty of other people will cast their moorings hard by you. Life has taught me that the hopeful policy wins acceptance from even embittered minds. The prophet of despair gains a shouting audience, but one who speaks from hope will be heard long after the noise dies down. As St. Paul said, hope does not disappoint. It is man's answer to the trust placed in him by the Creator. Those were encouraging words by a little entry in This Week, if any of you remember that little newspaper pamphlet or magazine. This was actually from around 1960, sometime in the 60s, Words to Live by Father John Lafarge. All right, we have a lot to do tonight, and one of the things that I want to do is, that I forgot last month, was to let you know that we won the Diamond Award. We were runner-up, and for 10 to 25 members. Next year, we're going to win it for more members, and we also received a check for $50. So I'll be giving that to. So let's congratulate yourselves for that. And I need some help. I can't handle two things at once.
I'll get you read.
Obviously. Thank you. Yeah, this is a thank you from one of our speakers last month, from Mindy McAlinden. And she says, Siloam-Springs Republican women, thank you for the opportunity to speak to your committee. I always enjoy visiting your group. I appreciate the opportunity to share my vision for National Committee Woman to strengthen, support, and save Arkansas. Look forward to visiting again soon. Best, Mindy McLendon. So that takes care of all of our wonderful acknowledgments and thank yous. Christy.
Okay.
Yes, it's time for our program. So if you will introduce our speaker.
Get out of your way.
Okay, I am happy that Delia Haak is here, and this is her first term as state representative, and it's District 91. And I wanted to ask her, now, do you live in Centerton?
No, we live just 10 miles from here, out
Oh,
near Gentry.
Oh,
between
near
here and
Gentry. Okay. Okay, so we're glad to have you come and kind of give us a little bit of a legislative wrap-up.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. My husband Bill and I moved here in 1979, and we went to the Bible church here for many years. And our boys in junior high and high school, my husband was the youth director for 10 years while he did the dairy farm. So this is a very familiar church and setting for me. And we still do have a dairy farm. I worked at John Brown University for 21 years and taught business there and enjoyed that very much. And then I worked 10 years with a nonprofit group called the Illinois River Watershed Partnership to work on watershed issues in our Northwest Arkansas. And then last time when the current person in this district decided not to run, I had taken our 7 grandchildren to Washington, D.C. in June of 2019, and I challenged them to get involved in our political world because I said, this is all about you guys, and these are everyday people like us making all these decisions that impact everyone in our country, and they're just like us. So you guys got to get involved and do this. And they looked at me and said, you, Grandma, you do it. And I was like, well, okay, all right. But then if I do it, then you have to do it. So now I can tell them it's their turn when their time comes. But I do appreciate the Siloam-Springs Republican Women's Group, and you really do a lot. Please feel encouraged and hopeful because you are well known for being doers and standing strong for the principles of the Republican Party. And I will say I am so proud that our platform does hold, number one, that God is who he says he is. And we stick to God's word as the foundation both for our lives and for the founding of our country. And we're not ashamed of that. And we stand for life and all kinds of opportunity and hard work. And those are all things that we have always believed in and have been taught. But it's so good to know those things are true. And our history of our country proves that those principles are sound principles to live by. I know that you all wanted to kind of hear a little bit about this legislative session, and I do get that question a lot asked about, did I enjoy it? And I really did enjoy it. It was a new kind of experience for me being down at the Capitol every day. We were there for 4 months. I guess it was the longest session on history on record, 108 days. So we went through almost to the end of April, a few days shy of that. A lot of important legislation, I think, was that came out of this session. To go back to your comment about hope, I think the Republican Party should still feel very hopeful in that it was just in 2014 that Arkansas became a majority Republican state. And the title of my thing was the majority report because there were 78 Republicans in our House of Representatives at the state capitol and the same majority in the Senate. And that hasn't always been the case. So I think you should feel very proud and hopeful that our state is very strong on the principles that are part of our party platform. And that it's not just about people and personalities, it's really about the platform. And so 3 things that we really worked on this session that a lot of the bills came underneath were, number 1, to reform state government. And that is, again, that the government only doesn't have its own money. It only has the money that it takes from hardworking families. And so for us to have strong communities and strong families, we need to make sure we're letting people keep as much money, their money, it's not our money, so that they can do with it the things that will promote their health and well-being and so on. And then to rebuild the economy, we know that the pandemic, thankfully Arkansas didn't have a major shutdown like a lot of states did, and I think that has shown to be a very wise decision. And but a lot of what we had to go through was a little bit of a struggle between the government's authority to shut down business and the right of business owners to conduct their business, and the right of people to choose where they would like to go and conduct their own business. And then to restore the American dream, really putting into the principles that allow people to follow their dreams. So things like education and healthcare, working moms and things like that. So I'm going to just go through a little bit of my PowerPoint presentation. I always like to have one because it reminds me what I want to say and talk about. Basically trying to restore, reform state government was, again, trying to restore the power to the people. So we saw that during this pandemic, the governor was given a lot of authority to make some decisions early on because they needed to be done and they needed to be done quickly. But over time, that authority kept stretching out past the amount of time that an emergency was really imminent. And so because there's not a provision in our current Constitution or statutes that allow the legislative session or legislators to call themselves back into session, the legislature was not able to do that. It would not have included me because I only became in this last session, but the previous session. So that was something that was very hard for a lot of legislators to feel like they wanted to be a part of the decisions that were being made, both on the money that came in from the CARES Act, from the federal government, and a lot of the unemployment, insurance, reimbursements, and all kinds of things that they wanted to be a part of because they are the elected representatives of the people. And I know that it was very hard for a governor to have to make those decisions with their department heads of health and so on, but I think it would have been very helpful to him and to those others to hear from the local communities and the local legislators what was actually happening on the ground, because you do often live in a bubble, and if you don't really know what's going on, it can be very harmful. We wanted to strengthen our election integrity. It was found by surveys that only 27% of Republicans believe that there is election integrity. That is down from 72% before the last election in 2018. 72% of the people thought we had election integrity. Until 2020, only 27% thought that. So we wanted to look at, okay, in Arkansas, how can we assure people that we have election integrity and making sure every vote counts, and no other votes that should not be counted are not counted. So we had a package of 16 bills that went through and passed to really ensure election integrity. And then a lot of things too related to our religious freedoms. We know that churches being shut down and so on were in some ways a major violation of a constitutional authority of our government that didn't have the right to do that. And so we want the freedom to assemble guaranteed. We want to see that. So I met a really lovely lady, and I hope she can come and speak to you all sometime soon. Her name is Mary Bentley, and she did a lot of bills, and you probably have heard her name. But her bill, I think one of the ones I was just so grateful for was that the government never will have the ability to shut down houses of worship. And I think that is so important. And we passed a constitutional amendment both in the Senate and the House that will be on the next ballot in the next year in November of 2022. And it is an amendment to the Arkansas Constitution to create the Arkansas Religious Freedom Amendment. So we have statutes in our laws that protect religious freedom, but it's not guaranteed in the Arkansas Constitution like it's stated in the U.S. Constitution. So I believe that constitutional amendment in November of 2022 is very important that we pass that and that becomes a part of the Arkansas Constitution. It is something that we've been so blessed to be able to take it for granted, but I don't think we can ever take that for granted, that will always be the case. You can always reverse a law or change a law, revise it, but if it's in the Constitution, both in Arkansas and the U.S. Constitution, then that's where the strength of our freedom really comes. So again, we wanted to make sure that representatives are being held accountable, not unelected bureaucrats in state agencies that are given the authority to make certain decisions. So how can we make sure your elected officials, all the elected officials from this area, and I was really so impressed. That was one of the things that I love about living here in Northwest Arkansas is how much I respect our mayors, our city councils, our county judge, our local elected officials in the House and the Senate. It's not like that around the rest of the state. They don't have that same trust built on different reasons and so on. But I was just very proud to be from Northwest Arkansas and really so grateful and realized how wonderful we do have it here. I was just going to show you a little bit of some of the votes and so on, but you may have seen this. There's a big board and it'll tally up all the votes. And so I was trying to post what actually some of the votes were because it shows you how Republicans are voting, it shows you how the Democrats are voting and so on some of these major issues. And it was just really clear cut on things that I would have liked to have seen a lot more bipartisan support for. And that was to prohibit the requirement of the vaccine passports in Arkansas. So you can see, you can see a lot of green on here, but some red. So some people do want vaccine passports, to be used. So it is a major importance of what we stand for. And we do stand for freedom in our Republican Party. We stand for good sense, common sense, I think, but it should be based in, as they say, on the science, and then not be political about that. In our elections, we want to make it easy to vote but hard to cheat, so that was a lot of our election reform. And I do appreciate how much you all work to help people, the voters, know what the issues are, who the candidates are that are running, both locally and statewide and nationally, because that is so important for an educated public to be able to make those kind of decisions when they vote. So there was a lot of bills that were passed to help our economy, to help reduce taxes and so on. We'd like to see that come down even more, but we were able to do some things to protect hardworking Arkansans. We're able to reduce, if you buy a used car, right now it's 6.5%, if it's $4,000 up to $10,000. It was reduced down to 3.5% up to $10,000. We were trying to get rid of it completely on a used car and so on, but at least we were able to bring it down a little bit for hardworking people. Making sure people are ready to get to work on education issues, a lot of things that could help people going not only to college, but also to technical schools, technical training in our high schools. Those are very important. I have 4 grandkids here in the Siloam-Springs schools and 3 over in Rogers, and I think a lot of these technical programs are really invaluable. Our companies need those skills and that training, and we're so fortunate. I had a picture in here today at McDonald's in Gentry, 300 on the marquee, $300 signing bonus. If you go to work at McDonald's in Gentry, Arkansas, you get $300 bonus for signing up to work, And sadly, we couldn't actually get a bill that would guarantee that the federal payments would stop, the additional unemployment payments, but that is something that Governor Hutchison was really working with the Republican Party on and has turned down now, the federal increased unemployment loans, that hopefully people will get back to work with jobs that are available, because companies and restaurants, we need them to work to get our economy going, but to have that self-reliance and that self-respect for earning what you go to work for. So those are just some of the things that we were focused on: increasing broadband, increasing transparency with local government, and so on. We became the #1 state in the country for pro-life. The bill we passed became an act. The governor signed it. With the exception of the life of the mother, abortion is now banned in Arkansas. So we want to really work hard to work. Yes, yeah, isn't that great? We really want to work hard with those families and those moms that maybe didn't want to have that child. We need to find that child a home in foster care and adoption services. We need to help the health of that child during the pregnancy of that mother. Mental health is a big issue. So I met with a young lady that she had been sending emails and things, and she was a Christian young lady who had a really horrible experience. And she said, I don't know what I would have done had I become pregnant. And she just was so her heart was so heavy for this issue. I said, let's work together to make sure that these women have some resources they need to have that child, to not want to kill themselves because of what they've been through, but to have that child and to see that child have a healthy, happy life. And so there's another lady, I'm meeting with her in the morning at 10 o'clock in the morning over in Rogers. They've adopted 7 children because they couldn't have any of their own. And we're gonna work on some of those issues that there are resources available, and how can we make those resources available? Because we need to be ready. If we want no abortion in Arkansas except for the life of the mother, then we need to be ready to help those children that are now ready to be born. So that is really something I'm excited about. So I'll just kind of go through, again, you guys know Robin Lundstrom. Robin Lundstrom is a rock star, solid rock star. That legislation that we passed, we were in one of our women's caucus meetings at a retreat, and she came in and she said, do you know what they're doing at Children's Hospital in Little Rock? They're giving these children hormone blockers that change their life forever. It's irreversible in terms of brain development, in terms of their hormonal development, in terms of their sex organs, and their being able to have children later if they change their mind, which 80 to 90% of children that are having gender dysphoria go back to their own gender at age 18 or older. So her bill was strictly focused on providing mental health and counseling services for children under the age of 18, that no hormone blockers or chemicals or any kind of surgeries would be done on children, not on adults, but on children. And that woman took so much abuse during this session, but she really stood strong. And just to tell you a little bit behind the scenes, we were watching, and we were at one of our caucus meetings in the evening looking at bills for the next day that we were going to vote on, and Tucker Carlson came on and was interviewing Governor Hutchinson. You may have seen that interview and so on. It was pretty striking. But they also called Robin to come and be on the next night or whenever she could come, and she turned it down. And she said she didn't want to make it about her and the governor and a fight between them, that we were standing strong on the principles, and that she wanted to, not to take anything away from that. And I just have such a great respect for her. But that, and for the caucus that stood behind her and that bill. And now we see other nations in Sweden and different ones that are saying they have been doing this now for decades there, and they are saying that that's the wrong direction to go. This is not for children. This is for if you are an adult and can make those decisions later. We don't allow tattoos. We don't allow, drinking. There's so many things we don't allow for 18 and under, and yet those were things that were permanent changes that a child was making. And for a lot of parents that are in this difficult situation, they were saying thank you behind the scenes because they felt like they needed to do those things for their child because they didn't know what else to do. And so this gives them the assurance and the confidence that they're doing the right thing for their children, which they of course want, and we all want that. The other bill that was very controversial, that the Women's Caucus, there are 18 Republican women, 14 out of 100 in the House. So ladies, that's not enough. 14 Republican women out of 78 in the House, 4 Republican senators in the Senate, so 18 of us together. But the Dream Big Act had several initiatives they really worked on, and the Biological Girls in Sports Act is one of those acts as well. And the governor signed that, and we were very grateful for that. And other states are following that suit. And so many of people from different persuasions have come out and said, yes, we need to support girls. I don't know about you, but when I was in high school, we didn't have women's sports. You know, it wasn't that long ago that women's sports in Title IX just was put into law. Maybe 1 or 2 generations at the very most, and now we're going back, you know, kind of backwards on that. So I'm really glad to see Arkansas on the forefront of those major issues. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. Another act we were talking about is the No Patient Left Alone Act. That was another of the Dream Big issues, of the women's issues, that no patient in a nursing home or in a hospital would be left alone. And I would love to see that forever be enshrined, that even that when they're in the hospital, that they're not left alone, not just when they're about ready to die, but no one should be left alone in a hospital. Many times that patient cannot respond to the care they're getting and so on, and a loved one needs to be there with them and to see what's going on, both in a nursing home and a hospital. And that act is now an act in Arkansas. And several different ones. Back the Blue, you know, providing resources for our law enforcement officers and our law enforcement personnel is so important here in Arkansas. And one of our Northwest Arkansas legislators, Kenan Underwood, had a law that said if you defund the police, then you reduce the amount of federal and state funds that you can get for other services, because you're diminishing the security and safety of your citizens and so on. So there was a lot of really good legislation to back the blue. And I'll hurry through this, but as we know, just recently, the law enforcement officer in Prairie Grove that was shot 3 times. Prairie Grove, that's a community like Gentry, you know, just quiet and so on. Lost part of his leg now. 3 bullets he took on a domestic, you know, disturbance call. So we know those people they go to work every day not knowing what's going to happen, and we've got to back them and what they're trying to do. The Second Amendment protections, the Sovereignty Act, a lot of those were kind of the last minute. We were there at midnight going back and forth between the House and the Senate trying to make sure we're covering the Second Amendment, and we did. But we did a lot for farmers as well, which is near and dear to my heart, being married to a dairy farmer. I had 4 bills, and in the House bills, and 4 that I was the House sponsor for. That was a Senate bill, so 8 bills, 2 resolutions, one for the construction management students at John Brown University that won a national competition, so we were able to recognize them through a resolution. And another that was a joint resolution between the House and the Senate that the governor signed that will go to the Food and Drug Administration. One of our lovely young Bentonville graduates was a University of Arkansas student, died of an overdose from contaminated poppy seeds and so on. So we were able to do a joint resolution between the Arkansas House and the Senate to send that to Congress to get the Food and Drug Administration to start inspecting these poppy seeds that are imported primarily from the UK. It wasn't even from Middle Eastern countries and so on. But anyway, it was really interesting, and I've probably gone on too long, and you may have some questions of a certain bill or issue or anything that I'd be happy to answer.
Could you elaborate on the hate crimes bill?
Sure.
Because I don't really completely understand that.
Okay.
And I noticed there was a division in the party. As you know, a lot of conservatives voted for it, and a lot of conservatives voted against it. And so I just was curious what it meant, the bill.
That's a really good point. And a lot of what I think we were trying to decide is, what I realized, and I think I've shared this with some of you, is you can have a good title and a bad bill, or you can have a good bill and a bad title. And you need to make sure that the title is telling you what the bill does. The hate crimes bill that was presented before the session ever began really had no support from either the Senate or the House. So that was going nowhere. So there was the Speaker of the House and the Senate Pro Tem, President of the Senate basically, and the Judiciary Committee chairs got together to work on wording of a bill that would not be a hate crimes bill per se, but how can we protect all citizens? So my criteria for voting for a bill, whether the title was a hate crimes bill or whatever, I wanted to know, do we protect every person? Yes or no? Are there laws that protect every person? And all the people that I talked to, from every police chief to the sheriffs to prosecuting attorneys, was we have laws that protect every person. They didn't feel we needed an additional law to protect all persons and all of their rights. So that was one thing. Do we need another law? I wanted to make sure if we did, I wanted to make sure all persons were protected. If we didn't, then how do we convey that to people that are afraid, or we hear that they're afraid, or businesses are afraid that we don't have those protections for every person? How can we make sure that we're letting them know that we do, communicating, here are the laws that protect every person in Arkansas? So those were the two things. And then if there is someone that commits a crime that's against someone for a particular reason, and we know all crime involves hate, how can we make sure that they fulfill their sentence that they're given? So the law that was finalized basically at the last minute, and it was a very difficult, kind of controversial way that it came out and so on, but it met the criteria that I voted for, which was, do we protect all persons? The answer is yes, and here are the laws that it stipulates in that particular act, what laws protect all persons, not specific groups, not specific acts, but, and then they have to serve out their sentence up to 80% of their crime. So if it's a violent act based on selecting that person for whatever reason, then they have to serve 80% of their sentence. So I know that there was a lot of back and forth, and it was not a bill that the Family Council came to support, but I have a lot of respect for them, and I worked with them on a separate bill, and we called it Equal Justice Under the Law. On the Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C., carved in marble, it says Equal Justice Under Law. I want to make sure that that's what we're following here in Arkansas. And I felt like the bill that was worked on that met the criteria for not some of the communities that wanted special treatment under a law, but it met the criteria that it protected all persons, then that was a bill that I could vote for. So some could, they felt like, others said they said they would never vote for a hate crime bill. I said, well, that's, if you feel like this is a hate crime bill and you can't vote for it, that's what you have to do. I didn't see it as a hate crime bill. I saw it as something that affirms what we believe in, and that is the protection of all citizens, and that everyone is equal under the law. So, but that's a really good question, and that was a difficult one.
Yeah.
It was a difficult issue during the session. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for letting me come and share with this important group of women here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delia, and there'll be time afterwards, I'm sure, to visit with her. We've got all this food that people brought, and we want you to enjoy it. Feel free to get up and get something to drink or eat or whatever at any time. Well, we come to a really important moment, and Jude is probably really excited to come up here. And I'm looking for something for him. Oh yes, here it is. All right. I'll go ahead and introduce you to Jude Blaylock. He's a ninth grader with Classical Conversations Academy. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. And here is your winning card and prize. So he won $200. So that's pretty good for writing a 2-page essay. It was $100 a page. So come on up here. Yeah.
Tell us the title of it.
Wow, it seems like there's a lot of positivity and hope. Well, we're gonna have to take a break from that for a second, for a couple of minutes. This is my essay entitled Problems with Cancel Culture. So, what is cancel culture? Cancel culture is the practice of verbally, physically, or economically harming an entity in response to an action or statement that may be considered objectionable or offensive. Most cancellations are in reaction to offensive statements or actions regarding race, sex, or religion that supposedly emotionally damage the offended, victims of racism, sexism, transphobia, or other issues. Some problems with cancel culture are: it imposes upon the right of freedom of speech and press, it gives the offended too much influence, and it can tear down constructive dialogue. First, cancel culture allows the rejection of the right of freedom of speech and press. Books, movies, and even scientific studies can be canceled because they are deemed offensive. In 2019, Amazon.com created a policy canceling all books or periodicals that contain hate speech, which is anything that may be found offensive by cancel culture standards. For example, Ryan Anderson's book, When Harry Became Sally, responding to the transgender moment, was banned from being sold on Amazon.com because it questioned the tenets of the transgender movement through scientific discussion about gender dysphoria. And yet, Kelly Novak's book, Let Harry Become Sally, responding to the anti-transgender moment, arguing against Ryan Anderson's book, was not canceled. Clearly, the right of free speech and press are being denied to those whose views disagree with or even question the transgender movement or other politically correct views, such as the anti-racism movement. Second, the offended are given too much influence, which they may abuse. The opinions or statements of the oppressed are accepted above anyone else's on current issues. The oppressed go unquestioned in their statements because questioning the so-called victims of racism, sexism, transphobia, etc., is often considered racist, sexist, or transphobic, and may result in cancellation. The offended parties know and may abuse this power. For example, according to Inside a Battle Over Race, Class, and Power at Smith College, published in the New York Times, Omu Canute, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, a black female student at Smith College was working as a teaching assistant, stopped at a dormitory cafeteria that was designated for a teenage summer program. Jackie Blair, a cafeteria employee, mentioned that to Miss Canute. Miss Canute moved to a closed dormitory lounge, and a janitor called security on her for suspicious activity. Miss Canute later accused Blair and the janitor, who were both white, of racism and misgendering her, even though neither had said anything about her race or gender. 3 weeks after the incident, Mrs. Blair received an email from a reporter at the Boston Globe asking her why she called security on Miss Canute for eating while black. Miss Canute posted Blair's photograph, name, and email on Facebook stating, "This is the racist person." Afterwards, Blair received hate messages by email, phone, and taped to her car windows. With the death of George Floyd over 2 years later came more hate mail. When she was furloughed due to the coronavirus pandemic, she was refused a new job when she was recognized as the racist who was against eating while black. This is the story of a white person who was canceled because of the actions of a black person abusing her power as one of few black people on that college campus. Third, constructive dialogue is destroyed by the overreactions of the offended. People lose jobs for social media blogs that they made years in the past, that they might not have even meant. Even scientific studies in film acting may be canceled. 2 college scientific studies analyzing the causes and effects of rapid onset gender dysphoria were conducted, published, and subsequently silenced. The study by Lisa Littman, who coined the term, was halted by trans people at Brown University. Abigail Schreier's book, Irreversible Damage, The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters, was pulled by Amazon.com before it could even be advertised. And now here's an example of film acting. In 2018, actress Scarlett Johansson nearly faced cancellation when she was cast as a trans man, Tex Gill, in the movie Rub and Tug because she was not a trans man. After criticism, she quickly backed out of her role and the movie production altogether. The movie was not produced, but came back 2 years later as a TV show. Ben Shapiro, a right-wing commentator on political issues, explains how cancel culture is a system legitimizing overreactions. To quote him, "The difference between cancel culture and regular criticism is, I disagree with what you just said, and we are going to go to all of the ways you make your money and make your living and earn your bread, and we are going to attempt to deprive you of those things because we disagree with what you just said." The idea is that if I say something that you don't like, it's a violence to you. I have done you harm. We have decided that words are actual weapons. If something hurts you, you are allowed to fight back. And thus, in canceling someone and ruining their career or ruining their life, all you're doing is defending yourself from harm. Continuing sarcastically, he says, "Your words are more damaging than me ruining your career." That is how much of an overreaction it is, that it is acceptable to destroy a person's career and public image because they said or did something that may have hurt a category of people's feelings. Scientific studies, film acting, jobs, and other constructive dialogue is lost to the overreactions of the offended. In summary, 3 major problems with cancel culture are: they allow deprivation of the right of freedom of speech and press, it gives the offended party too much influence, which they may abuse, and it's destructive rather than constructive. Cancel culture, or the war on openness of ideas, as Ben Shapiro has called it, needs to end.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that, Jude. Yeah. And we expect you to enter the next time we have an essay contest. You have 3 more years you can enter. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Well, now we come to the part of the meeting where we're going to take up some business. And so if anyone feels like they would like to leave, you may certainly do that. We would like for you to stay if you can and put your vote in on things we're going to vote on. So if you need to take a break, that's fine too. All right, so we'll begin with the minutes from the April meeting. It's wrong in your agenda, but it is the April meeting.
Yeah, okay, I'm just going to kind of hit the high points. We had 25 people at our April meeting, and the speakers were Mindy McAlinden and June Wood. They're both candidates for the Arkansas National Committee Woman. And I just will mention that next month is the convention where they will be voted on, and Caroline and myself and Christy will be heading down to the state convention for that. We also received 2 recognition plaques from Barbara Tillman at our last meeting for 2 people that have served faithfully the Republican Party from Siloam-Springs. Barb Foreman, and she was our longtime treasurer for many, many years and is deceased, and Preston Bynum, who served in the House of Representatives, and he was at one point the only Republican out of 100 members in the House during his tenure. Under new business last month, Mitty Greeny gave us a little bit of a legislative chat about some of the bills that were happening. She's our new legislative chairperson, so we're excited that she can be doing that. And I'm going to skip over some of this stuff because I've got copies that you all can take if you want to read further details. And
We are still planning to give copies of the U.S. Constitution and Declaration of Independence to the Siloam-Springs High School graduating seniors. And let's see, I think I'll end it right there. Okay. It's back to you, Karen. I have the dropsies too, so we're twins tonight, I guess.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to call on Kathy, yes, for the treasurer's report, please.
I'm gonna hold on tight.
Sure, you can do it there.
Hold on to my stuff.
Pretty long forward.
We have two financial statements. The Political Action Committee, it just doesn't change. It's $696.50 right now. We're just maintaining that balance. For our administrative account, our beginning balance was $1335.11. We did not have, we did not have any receipts. We had expenses for the essay award of $200, a videographer $50. We ordered some checks for $3 and had a reimbursement for our convention. So that left us a balance of $1,000.91. That's that.
Very good. All right, short and sweet. All right. I just wanted to ask a question. Is anyone not receiving the newsletter as an attachment? I sent it out last week. Did everybody get it? I'm assuming if I don't see any hands that you all got it, we're able to open it. Is that right? All right, we'll keep doing that then. And we have ordered the Constitution and Declaration. Christy's done that, and it's supposed to be here when?
Well, I think it's supposed to come in tomorrow, but I did not realize that the graduates graduated, yesterday. We thought it was gonna be later, or it was Saturday, was it?
It was Sunday, yeah.
It
They've
was
already
Sunday at
graduated.
3. They already graduated. So we may have to just wait till next year, I don't know. We got 300 copies, but we were thinking, it was later.
We were
Oh,
thinking it was
well.
a week later.
I mean,
But I think they had to work it out with games that were going on and stuff, so
Yeah.
it probably was earlier than they had thought too.
We'll have to just see, discuss that later, I guess.
Jude, when do Classical Conversations graduate? When is their graduation? You don't know. You're only in 9th grade. Okay. All right. So that's
Yeah, that's
a
an
possibility.
option. We might
Mhm.
do them.
Okay. This is our first time to have finger foods at the meeting, and would we like to continue that? How is that going? Do you like it? We like food. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So may I have a motion to continue food at the meetings?
I'll make a motion.
I need a second, and a second for Amy. Okay. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? No one's going to oppose that. Okay. Now we've started a telephone tree, so some of you may have been getting some phone calls, maybe from your friends that normally call you, and then from someone else. That's because we've kind of divided up the membership list among the executive board. So we're hoping to build relationships and build community. We really want us to become a tight-knit group, people that we know each other, and we know what our strengths are and our weaknesses, so we can call on each other when we need help. All right, so I just wanted to explain that a little bit. We do have a YouTube channel. How many of you have gone to our YouTube channel? Yeah, 2. That's good. Please like it. That helps. For any of you who want to go to it, just go to YouTube and then type in a search for RW space Siloam-Springs, and that'll get you to our YouTube channel, okay? And right now we just have 2 meetings up there. We're working on getting the other 2 up, and then this one will be up as well, eventually. All right, so did all of you who wanted name tags sign up as you came in? If you would like a name tag, it's $9. We need you to pay tonight and print your name clearly. You can do that on the sign-in sheet, and you may give your money either to Helen or to Kathy. Probably would be the best person to give it to. Yeah, just give it to Kathy. Yeah, okay.
And they look like this,
Yes.
and they're magnetic.
Yeah, they have a cute little elephant with the eyelashes. Yeah, all right. So if you'd like one, we'd love for you to have one. But we're only going to do one order, so tonight's the night for everybody. So, and then that brings us to volunteer hours. We haven't been doing very well at getting those turned in, and I have to turn in our report by the 1st of June. So we will not have another meeting before I need to turn that in. So there were pads of paper at the sign-in table. Hopefully some of you have some paper. And I was going to read a little bit. It's Benton County.
Do you want me to go get it off the table?
Maybe that would be a good idea because I don't see it here. Things that count for volunteer hours are like working at the polls, being a poll worker, and turning your money in that you earn to the party and not keeping it. If you keep it, you can't count those hours, okay? Which is fine. I didn't turn mine in, so that's okay. I might need it. Thanks. Yeah. All non-paid political activities benefiting our Republican Party candidates or the Federation. Work done at home, including mailings, preparing campaign posters, phoning, not paid again. Work at for a special event, but not if you attend as a paid guest or if you are compensated for the event. Attendance at Federation Board Directors meetings, that doesn't relate to most of us. In session at or travel to a precinct, ward, county, district, or state party conventions. Time spent as a county, state, or national party committee member, or as a temporary member for the Rules Committee, Resolutions Committee, and so on. Political work at club meetings, getting petitions signed, doing mailings, but not regular club meetings. Are you adding this up in your heads already? Got at least a couple hours? Traveling from event to event, but not for personal stops in between.
That doesn't include to regular meetings?
No,
No.
not to regular meetings, no, sorry. Volunteering at county, state, or any federation headquarters. Volunteering for a Republican candidate for a nonpartisan office, in other words, school board elections. Working as a poll watcher on election day, but not if you're paid as a poll watcher. Involvement in a campaign management school. Working on election day as a judge or election clerk, but only if you turn your money in to the party, the local FRW club, which would be us, I think, maybe. Presenting political programs or speeches at local civic clubs, and that's something I was hoping some of you would do this coming year, that you would speak in different places. Appearing on local media for the GOP cause, running for office, all time spent campaigning, and that's a bit of time, isn't it? And time of NFRW associate members, men and women, volunteering for the Federation or GOP, working at the headquarters of a candidate, putting up yard signs, and so on. So that's what counts as volunteer hours.
And why don't you tell from what month to what month?
Yes.
For the year?
Yes, the year starts June 1st of 2020, that's last year, in the middle of the pandemic, and goes to June 1st this year. So if you did anything at all, if you have 1 hour, whatever it is, write it down, and I'm going to add them all up, and that'll be the volunteer hours for our club.
Now, Delia, can she count her campaign hours?
Yes, she's a member of our club, yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you count all your
So,
campaign hours.
You need a little piece of paper, give her a piece of paper. Give that girl a paper.
She can
Get her
probably
counted.
just put down a few hundred hours.
Now, okay, so you've got to turn that in by
June
June
1st.
first?
Yeah, 2 weeks,
Okay, in 2 weeks, so
less.
people just need to contact you and let them know how many, the
If they
name
aren't
and how many
prepared
hours,
tonight to
right?
give you the hours, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I'd like
you'll
you to
turn
write
it
it down
on.
on that little piece of paper if you
Right.
could, if you can add it up in your head.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
count it
you
on your
want-
toes and fingers.
Do you want them to bring it to you then, if it's on a paper?
Yes, tonight, yes.
Oh,
yes.
tonight.
I'd like to have it tonight.
Well, yeah, I.
That's why I
think
brought
we
them
can
little
do
pads of
tonight.
paper. I have lots of those pads of paper. My dad printed off a bunch of those when he was
I've got
a realtor in Rogers, and I have stacks of them, and so I would love to use them up. So I brought them tonight, so you could write on them. All right. I'm trying to clean out all the paper in my house, so. Okay. New business. Is there any other old business? Did I forget anything? Anybody know? Okay. New business. We have been talking in the executive board about having a club directory, a membership directory. It would include a lot of different items like our bylaws and who to contact for different things. You know, a lot of really useful information, and our names and contact information to help build community. Some people may not want their contact information. This would only go to members, and there would be a little disclaimer in there that would say not for use for business purposes, not for sale, not for, distribution, so that it would stay hopefully a bit private. But we would like to publish that and have a little booklet to give members so that they would feel like they're part of us. Not only the NFRW card and letter, but a local thing that would make them feel part of us. So do you feel like you're ready to vote on that tonight? If you are, I'd like to hear a motion that we do that. Okay, I have a motion. Now I need a second. Second,
Who
Kathy.
made the motion?
Helen.
Helen?
Helen made the motion, Kathy seconded. Okay, is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. We will work on that then and get that published hopefully before the end of the year. All right. We already talked about the district committee meeting. The school board elections are ending tomorrow. The last day of early voting was today, which would have been really convenient for us. We could have just gone down to Lincoln Street and voted at the county clerk's office. But no, now we have to go up to Decatur if you want to vote. That's our closest voting place, I found out. I don't know why, but that's
Decatur?
Decatur.
For Siloam
For
Springs?
school board?
For school
elections?
board. Yes, isn't that ridiculous? Anyway, I'm sorry.
Really?
This is recorded, I won't say
I
anymore.
don't know.
Okay, so if you want to vote tomorrow, you might need to take a little trip. And it's voting on millage, and I just did a little check, and it was really surprising to me that Siloam-Springs millage is higher than Rogers and higher than Springdale's. Go figure. So, and the only person running is for district, school district, what do they call it, a unit or something, number 2. So there's only one person running, so it won't make any difference if you vote for her or not. But the millage would make a difference, voted up or down. So I'd encourage you to go vote, please. The June meeting, we have decided to have a movie night. We don't know what movie. If you have an idea of what movie you would like to see, let me know. And we don't know exactly where we're going to have it. Not yet. It's not settled quite yet. So if you have a house that's convenient for a movie night, that would be great. So we need to hear from you guys.
We're gonna do a big screen movie thing, so we've got some ideas of where.
Christy has ideas. She's in charge of all that. So if you have ideas about a movie, tell Christy.
And Caroline, make sure and show the picture that we're gonna
Mhm.
have at the movie night.
Yes.
It's an oil painting of the old
raffle it
barn,
off at
so
the movie
kinda look
night.
at it.
We're going to auction this painting off at movie
At
night.
movie night. Yeah.
And if you want to have a pajama party movie night, let me know. Okay. We're going to
It
have,
won't be that late.
I hope not. Okay. So, is there any other new business that I've forgotten or neglected to bring up? All right, we're going to try to keep this short and sweet. And just remember what James Madison said: Americans have the right and advantage of being armed, unlike citizens of other countries whose governments are afraid to trust people with arms. So, be safe. All right. God bless you all.